Hey guys, it's Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the latest power supply to come from the Corsair stables, and that's the AX860i. Although, just for kind of note, most of the things that we're going to be talking about today, other than things like voltages and amps on the rails, you're going to be able to directly tie this in with the AX760 as well. And then again, a lot of the features are also kind of mimicked in the AX1200i. They do all look kind of similar as well, but the most common ones are the AX860 and the AX760, because internally they're pretty much identical. But anyway, we're going to be taking a look at this. Now, this is the first of the digital power supplies from Corsair, and I'm going to admit right from the start, I should bring this in. It's not very often I do this, but I've even taken some notes from the reviewer's guide, because this thing, there is a hell of a lot for me to try and remember. Normally I can pick them out and eventually, going around in circles a few times, I find the bits that I'm trying to remember. But with this, there are a lot of kind of like figures and amps and this and that, and I did need to, write it down. But Corsair link, talk about that to start off with. You may have seen this from the AX1200i. There's some software that you can put on to your system, and you get a little little dongle that goes into the USB port on the board, not in the back, and it means that you can actually monitor what's going on in the power supply, make fan changes and all kinds of stuff. Kind of clever stuff too, but I'm going to show you a dedicated bit on the Corsair Link software in a minute. Another thing to notice on over there is the Platinum badge. Because this is a platinum power supply, and the platinum power supply means it's got a 92% efficiency rating. Now, that 92% efficiency rating, there's some other things that we've not even got the box open yet, and we're going to end up talking about loads of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the box open so we can actually have a look, and then we'll start talking about some bits and bobs inside. Let's have a look around the back quickly, because it's basically Corsair Link, and then Platinum, and then the digitally controlled power, which we've already spoken about. So really, other than the fact that there is a logo there for a 7-year warranty, I know you're all saying to me, just get the box open, Tom. Now, black and red, already, I know there's going to be loads of people out there with an Asus Rampage Extreme, or let's just say a Republica Gamers motherboard, and they're going to be looking in their rig going, oh my god, there's a power supply that matches my motherboard. And basically, I would say, yeah, you're right. So we open this up. Now, one thing I will say is this little USB thing, right, doesn't come with the main motherboard. They send me this with some graphs and stuff on to show testing. But essentially we've got a warranty guide, and then it's a thing about downloading the Corsair Link, and then user manual. As you can see, look, 1200i, 860i, 760i. These are all the digital ones. The I denotes the fact it's digital. So there is an AX860 and an AX760. They're not digital. Only the I's are, and I'll explain the difference between the two in a minute as well. So we'll open this bit first. Heave! Doosh! Inside we have all the cables. Now, what's this? Now I'm going to open this because I want to have a look, and I think you do too. I can't. Oh, it's like a flipping EVGA thing. Aha! Right, now this is the Corsair Link, and essentially that little bit there goes in your onboard USB, and then you put the little cable from the power supply in there. Now you can hide this. The cable's long enough for you to make this disappear somewhere in your rig, but that's how it all communicates with the software is on this. Or, like I've said before, you can plug it into your H80i or H100i. Power supply cable is massively beefy. Look at the thickness of that. It's like a... I'm not going to get rude. The only reason why it's got that plug on it is because it's been sent to me from Corsair directly, so I'm pretty sure that's a USA plug. That doesn't matter, I've got plenty of normal ones. So let's have a look at the cables. Now, Corsair are pretty famed for their flat cables. And by flat cables, let me find the end, I'll show you. You've just got normal black cables, but they're flat, stripped cables. And they are really nice. They can be a bit funny to get around bends and stuff. You can have to get quite creative if you're really anal about making your cables tidy. but the black cables like that are really nice. The only thing I will say, and it's not something to mark a power supply down for, but if you ever want to braid your cables and they're all black, it's a right pain in the butt cheeks. You have to do one at a time, because otherwise you don't know where to put them back. But again, that's nothing to do with Corsair. Now, another good thing about using black cables is, as you can see with the braided ones, where they've got black cables inside, when you have a look at the braid itself, you can't see any colours through the braid. And it's kind of a good way of getting around it. If the other manufacturers that I moan about the braid on, if they use black cables, we probably wouldn't moan half the time. So that's another good real point. And you can see, look, we've got acres upon acres of cables here. That's lovely, because it's fully modular, as we'll see now. But cables, tick box, good Corsair quality, as usual. I do need to talk to you about cables, and we will go through more of that at the end. This is a review where you're going to have to sit to the end. Further inside, we've got a Corsair sticker, some zip ties, screws to screw it in with, and then a little sticky thing so that you can stick the Corsair link thing on. Now, we get to the main nitty-gritty of the power supply, and we will chuck the box on the floor. Ow! And then we come back to this. So, out she comes. Now, this is my first look. I've not taken this out yet. As you can see, all the stickers and everything are still on. So I've not had a proper look. So here we go. So as we saw with the AX1200i, you can see that they're trying to kind of make the look that all their fins kind of like flow right the way across. It's a 120mm fan in there. Now, if we look round this side, you can see. In fact, what I'll do, I'll move that out of the way so we get a bit of. And I'll tell you what else I'll do. Da 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 da! Ha ha! There we go. How about that? So we get that in there. So we have a look at the top. That's the COM port. That's where your lead goes for the Corsair link. So in there, whiz off to the Corsair link. Now all the other ones, it's pretty self-explanatory. 24-pin ATX at the top. Then we've got PCIe. So your PCI Express cables for your graphics cards and the like, and then your CPU 4+4, and then over on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you've got your SATA and things like your Molex. But also up here, this is something worth noting, is you've got a self-test button, and that's so the CPU's got the power supply has actually got a button, and the LED changes colour, so it will tell you whether it's working properly. So if you think you've got a problem with your power supply, turn the rig off, press the little button, and it will tell you whether it's working. Simples. So, stickers. Obviously, we want them the right way round if we have it that way up. So, there we go. Something about this sticker I will say straight away is the fact that it's in there. I'm not sure whether it's... there we go. Ooh, look at that. It's actually a really glossy, shiny sticker. Now, I'm having to watch what I'm doing so I can get you that sheen on there. But that's a really nice, glossy sticker on the side there. And it stands out really well against the matte of the power supply. I do quite like the look of that. But if you're one of these anal people that think that they've got to have the power supply sucking air in from the outside, if you turn it round, the sticker's in the right place. But then you've got this ugly sticker on the top. There's also a sticker on the back telling you that it's an AX860i if you forget after you've bought it. Nice kind of clunky switch. Kind of all the general, usual stuff that you would expect. Now, there is an awful lot for me to try and get through. But while we've got it here, I'll talk to you about some stuff just to let you know. It's got a single rail in it. It's a single rail 12 volt power supply. Now that single rail is 71.6 amps. Now that basically adds up to 859.2 watts. But in the software, the Corsair Link software, you can go in there and set it up so it's software driven multi rail design, and you can set overcurrent protections for each of the rails, and it's basically so that you can set the rails up for like your PCI Express, all the real high power drawing stuff. You can set these up so they've got their own amp ratings so that they can't go over a certain amp if you want to set it up as multi-rail. It's quite a complex thing to do really. I don't see many of us playing around with like that, but you never know, you might want to. So you've got that. Also, 120mm fan, but it's semi-passive. Up to 30%, which is 258 watts. This fan's not even going to spin up. But again, in the Corsair Link software, you can go in there and you can set up, you can set manual fan if you want, you can set fan profiles. It's actually quite clever. So you can, it's not loud anyway, but you can set it up to be even quieter. The Corsair, the Platinum side of things, it actually exceeds the ATX Platinum specs. The normal ATX specs, you know, for generally every power supply on the planet, just for it to be able to be called an ATX power supply, this actually can be up to 3 times more efficient than they want it to be, or 3 times better than they want it to be, which is quite a clever thing, really. Now, all built in inside, you've got overcurrent protection, over temperature protection, over voltage protection. The bits inside, which I'm going to show you in a minute, it's continuous 50C running at the rated, the 860 watts. So you can be absolutely maxing it out, and it will sit at all its rated efficiencies and everything like that at 50C. But they've built it with 105C caps. And the ripple, and as I said before, the ripple, it can be up to and exceed 3 times the ATX spec. But the thing is something that I used to really like about the AXs was the size. But thankfully, we're still in at 160mm. Now 160mm is like an ATX standard, really. But you'll see in many of my other reviews, if I say 160mm power supply, this is what I'm talking about. And it means that a lot of cases are designed, several of the features in cases like radiator positioning and stuff can be designed around a 160 power supply. It's generally the smallest kind of power supply that you want to be going for with decent specs. And the fact that you can have this, an 860 watt, which, to put it into context, if you were running even a 2011 rig, you could run 2 7970s or 2 680s off of this and it wouldn't even be breaking a sweat. A 760, the 760 model will do for that, to be fair, but it really depends. As soon as you start talking 580s and stuff, it gets kind of complicated. But with the newer breed of graphics cards and stuff, you can easily run an SLI or Crossfire setup on this without a problem. In fact, it's nice and small as well, means it's not going to take up too much room in your rig. Easy for radiator locations. In several cases I've said that you need a 160 power supply. But old versus new, baby. So we'll have a look. On the right hand side we have the old AX850. Now the AX850 is the OEM is Seasonic. Everybody knows that. Quite a lot of people mistakenly say that all of Corsair's power supplies are made by Seasonic. Well, that's wrong, because Corsair have actually got 4 OEMs. But anyway, the gold rated AX850 is OEM is Seasonic. The AX860 without the I is also Seasonic. As soon as you put the I in, so it's digital, that means it's actually Flextronic. And Flextronic make the AX760i, 860i and AX1200i. And the difference between the two is the fact that this is a digital controlled power supply, and this is like the old kind of ordinary, and I'm going to say analog controlled power supply, because to me the opposite of digital is analog. But these the I's are digital. This is one of the older ones, isn't, but if it was one of the newer red AX860s, then that wouldn't be digital. So that's the difference between the I. And it also means that you've got a better control, you know, the fact that you can change a lot more in the power supply. And that's why Corsair have gone with Flextronics with the new breed of power supplies, because Seasonic don't have the digital capabilities yet. It'll probably come eventually, maybe quite soon or whatever, it doesn't matter. But that's why they've moved over to a new OEM. Something else you guys are going to be asking, I know, is cables. Because the AX, the original AX is this one, you can get individually braided cables for them. Now, they don't fit We need to move over a bit more. They don't fit the new ones. Any of the new, the red ones, whether it's the 860i or the 860, 760i, 760, you need new cables. The older ones do not work. Basically, there's a new cable standard available now. Both the Flextronics and the newer Seasonics will be working with the same cables. So when the cable products come out, any of them that are red, you'll be able to use those new cables for. But the older, you know, this style power supplies, you will need the older style. So there's going to be two. I know this is going to be confusing for a lot of people, but they've moved over. The only difference I've been told is there's something different with the 24-pin configuration with the cabling. Yeah, so within the next, you know, month or so, I would have thought you are going to have two different sets of cables available. We'll have to see when they come out, you know, how they're going to market it so that we can see them, you know, and they're easily identifiable. Basically, I just hope there are people in the future that don't make the mistake and put the wrong one on, because it could end up with a board. But to do something slightly different, and I've never done this on video before, I'm going to take the old girl apart, and we're going to have some nudity on the inside of a power supply. So as I've only just taken this out of the box and I need to go and find my Allen key, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera off and I'll be back ready to unveil what's beneath her lingerie. Right then peeps, so I have undone the screws, and you can tell when you start to take it apart they are different OEMs, but we can just take the top off of the original AX, and then we'll take the top off. I've already loosened this, by the way, because it was quite tight. You could tell she was all fresh and brand new. I'll take the top off of this one. Now, because of the way I need to kind of lay them out so that we can get them open, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and stand behind the camera so I can have a look to see what you can see. Now I think if I have a look around, there we go, I get a book. Be a good way is to stand it up slightly like that. Has that made it any better? I don't think it has really, has it? Now, I'm not going to profess to be any type of power supply junkie, but you can see that there are a lot of differences in there. Now, what I'll do is we'll move, we'll do one at a time. Yeah, come on Tom, move it out of the way. So this is the old one. I'll zoom you in a bit more so you can have a look. So you can see the insides of the old one. Now, like I said, I'm no power supply guru when it comes to internals. But I know there are going to be people out there that are, and that may be interested. And I'll be very interested to hear from you about what you would like to see, because I'm going to start popping these open a lot more in future, just so you can see a bit more of what's going on. Now, if we move that one off, we can then bring in this baby. Oh, crikey. Did you hear me have kittens then? So you can see that there's what's going on inside. Now, something Corsair do say about this in their PR is what they've done is they've tried to use the least amount of components available. And their reasoning behind this is, A, the less things that has to go through, the less components that you have to go through, the less loss that you're going to have, so the efficiency goes up. But then the other kind of no-braining, kind of idiot-proof version of it is, the little amount, or the least amount of things that you have inside, the little, you know, the less there is to actually go wrong. And by the fact that, you know, there's less to go wrong, that also ties into the fact that this has now got a 7-year warranty. I don't know many people that are going to end up using a power supply for 7 years, but the fact that you can actually, you know, you will be able to do it, that's amazing. Now, the fan was also always something people used to say. Now it's a Y-A-L-N. I want to say Yate-Loon. It is, it's Yate-Loon. If you have a look. There we go. There we go. It's a Yate loom, but at the top it was YALN. And it was throwing me a bit, but that is a Yate loom 120mm fan in there. If you're wondering about this, it's so when it's on, it helps direct the air towards the back. One thing I have noticed as well, and it's a good job I did notice, I've pulled the clip off for the fan, which when I put it back together I need to make sure I clip that in. But anyway, so if I put the two side by side again, and we'll make sure that they're the same way round so it's a little bit easier for you to gauge. Now both of these at the moment, watch on camera Thomas, watch what you're doing, there you go. Both of these at the moment, the power would go in the back, so the cables are all kind of this end at the far right hand side, far that side. You can have a look at all the gumph that's in there. Now it's quite interesting to have a look inside. I'm sorry I'm now getting my head inside. Something that I do find funny is that both of these, even though you never see it, they've both got black PCBs inside. And how hard is it to get graphics card manufacturers to use black PCBs, or even memory manufacturers? And yet these power supplies have got black PCBs inside them. I'm definitely going to be using that as a dig from now on. But I know that some of you may have skipped past this, but it's a nerd porn thing you get to see inside the power supply. It's not something many people would normally dare to do, but let's face it, I'm stupid enough to do it and I don't mind. So that's that section of things over and done with. What we're going to do now is we'll move on to have a look at the software side of things, so that we can have a look there, and then we'll get everything wrapped up in the conclusion. Okay then peeps, so this monitoring software, what's it all about? Well, if you look over here you can see the Corsair link 2 icon. Now you can download this from the Corsair website. In fact, we'll open it up nice and big so you can see. So you can download it from the Corsair website. You do get a little USB thing, as I've shown you, so you can connect it to your rig, but with the new AX80i and AX160i, you can actually plug it into that as well, because that's got like a little hub built into it. But essentially it means you can monitor all of the like your fan speeds. You can connect all of your other fans up to it as well if you want to buy the actual hub. But if you've just got something basic like we have here, so we're just going to be monitoring the power supply. It will tell you your hard drive temperatures and the load for your CPU and the load for your, the temperature for your CPU. But if you have a look up here, you can see, if you can't see it and you're saying it's too small, put it into 1080p and blow the video up full screen and you'll be able to see it. But up here, it's got a little dial which tells me that I've got 0 RPM on the fan. Now I know we're doing the AX80i, but this is my test bench that I've already got the AX1200i fitted. Now the software and everything's all the same, otherwise I wouldn't have been showing you. But I've not yet had time to be able to put the rigs, to change all the power supply and all the other test benches, because the 1200 watt is the one that I use in most other test benches. So we'll show you this, but it's exactly the same. Anyway, you can also see down here that we've got the temperature. In fact, what I'll do is I'll move that up, because this is another good thing you can do with this. You can move stuff about. In fact, what we'll do it the opposite way, because we can move it all down. La 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 la. Move all those down, move that down, move that down. So you can put it in any order that you want. But now at the top, we've got the temperature for the power supply, which is 25.8 degrees, and that's with it completely passive. And at the top, you can see that the fan's off. Now, groups. You can set groups up. You can add in, depending on what you've got connected to your rig, you can decide, what you want added in, taken out, all that kind of stuff. This is something which is quite cool, is the graphs. So we'll put Intel temperature on, and you can monitor graphs, but also when you start doing this, you can set it to log them as well, so it can go off to files, and we'll put in AMD temp, so that we'll get another line going there in a minute. There we go, there's the blue one, so that's the AMD, and we'll go AX1200i temp as well. That'll eventually, there we go. Now you can set this to log it all, depends where you want it to go. It can be a really good tool. And then you can put in a AX1200i fan if you wanted to as well. So you've got RPM in there, but we'll take that out because then we get the other one back again big. There's lots of different temperature things like this that you can monitor. It's a great tool. It's definitely something you can play around with. Now power, if we click into power, you can see that we've got the efficiency bar at the top, so we're on 99% efficiency at the moment. But you've also got in there the power in and the power out. So at the moment, well, it's flicking around, but right, 168 in and then 166.3 watts out. So that's where you get your 99% efficiency from. You can see here again that we've got the fan RPM and the temperature. You can also see the voltage readouts for all of this. So we can see the main voltage in at the moment is 242.5, dead on 12 volts for 12-pin ATX, and you can see them all across. You can, you know, monitor them. But also, it's a single rail, as I've spoken to you about before, but you can, if you want to, because you've got multiple points where you can put on this. You can, well, there are more on this than the AX860, but you can actually turn it into like a multi-rail mode, and you can set an over current protection. So that one's like set to 40 amps, so that you can't ever pull too much from one. So it's single rail, but you can set it up through the software to act like it's multi-rail, which is all quite clever. And then in the back we've got show all devices. You've got things that, oh, there's the login button, so you can decide what you want to log, and then you can set where you want the file to be and stuff like that. So it is pretty damn clever. Now if we go over to the config, I'm trying to remember where we have to go. Let me find it, please. I had it here earlier. Aha, there we go. Right, so we'll put it in the graph. Oh no, hang on. Power, open, config panel. Is that going to do it? See, I should really have done this before, but we'll do it here because it worked here before. Right, see, most people would have edited that out, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it in because I don't mind admitting I'm only human. Easiest way to do it, I found, is if you go into groups, up to the RPM bit for the AX1200i fan, and then double click on it, and then ba-doom, it opens it up on the other side. So, right, as you can see that you've got device type fan, you can see it's AX1200i, but this is exactly the same for the 860. If you go to notifications, you can actually get it to notify you when it hits a minimum or a maximum amount. Now this doesn't say to me whether it's watts or fan speed or anything, so I don't know whether it's like a temperature based one or whether it's a fan speed like an RPM reading, but anyway, you can get it to send you an email which you set up in all the settings, shut down the PC, run a specific file, so you could have like a JPEG picture that will pop up with like a meme face on it or a troll face or something like that. Trigger all RGB LEDs. The H80i and H100i have got RGB LED on the front of it now, rather than just a white one. But the RGBs, I'm hoping, then they might bring out in the something like the Corsair Platinum. But the only problem with Platinum would be it will need special wires in it, so I don't know whether that works so well. But maybe more power supplies later on, or lighting modules or something that you'll be able to add in. And then set all fans to 100%. So anything that's set up through the link commander, like if you bought the special hub, you could get all your fans to go on to 100% to warn you about what's going on. But something else that you can do is, if you go up to this mode here, you can say it says quiet. Well, if you click the drop down box, you can set it to a fixed amount. So in here, you can see there it's, well, at the moment we're on 0 RPM, so keep a look up here, but you can also see there it's on 0 RPM. So if we go in there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 100. It should catch up. There we go. You can probably hear on the mic that it's just gone. You can see up here that the dial has spun right the way round. Up here you can see it's at 1900 RPM now. And if we go through, we'll be able to see, let's have a look, AX860i temp, 26.3, it's coming down. But another thing that you need to remember is it's quite warm in the room as well. There goes 25.8, 25.3, but that fan is now at 100%. So if you were benchmarking or something, or in a really warm room, you can do it. But you don't have to have it on 100. We can set it to just 50. And you can see now it's dropped right the way back off again. It's like down just below 1,000, and you'll see eventually that the temperatures will probably start to climb back up again. But I'm just going to set it to quiet, and then what it will do is the RPM will gradually tail right off and go back to 0 because it's an acceptable temperature. But you can set up how you want it to ramp up and how you want the fan speeds and everything to change, and you can set your own groups up for certain temperatures, and it is a really clever way. But the fact that you can go in and monitor even things like before, we would have to have used things like IDA and stuff, but this has got its own dedicated digital power supply monitoring, and the fact that you can make loads of changes for it as well, and the fact that it's all in one program, and it does, you know, it will tell you your system temps, everything as well, so you can get everything all kind of tied in together. Now obviously the only things that I've got connected really are the AMD fan, which it's picking up, and the AX1200i fan. But if we were to plug the fans on the CPU cooler into the board or into the Link Commander that, you know, that you can buy extra, you can have all those extra things down in there as well. The only thing I will say is obviously adding more and more things in like that is going to give you a lot more cabling. So you're either going to have to get very careful and clever with your cabling, or you're going to end up with it looking quite messy. Having all these extra things, you know, can seem like a good thing, but if you're like me and you really like your, you know, your nice tidy looks to your rigs and everything like that, it can be, you know, quite difficult to keep adding all this extra stuff in. It's one of the reasons why I tend to not use fan controllers, because of all the extra kind of spider splurge or spaghetti or whatever you want to call it that you have to add in to be able to control the speed of the fans. But anyway, that's the software. It is actually really good. It's better than I envisaged it was going to be when I first got it, to be fair. The power one's the one I like the most. The fact that you can put it off to a save file as well. So you could, for argument's sake, be playing your favourite game or benchmarking or running this and running that, and it can give you a real-time look at what's going on in your PC. And it gives you access to something that previously you wouldn't have been able to have seen, or wouldn't necessarily have been that accurate. So it's definitely something that I think is definitely a bonus, and probably worth that little extra USB thing being added. Or like I said, rather than having loads of them being added in, if you've got the H80i, the H100i, you can put the cable from your power supply, and I would go up the back of the board, let's face it, and be able to put it straight in the side of your hydro cooler as well, and you'll be able to monitor them all at once. Because like I said, the H80i and the H100i do act like a Corsair link hub, well, for one more item anyway. But that's enough of this. We've had plenty of time to chit chat about this. Let's move on. Right then, peeps, so it's a little bit weird because you can only see my shoulders. But I've got you zoomed in a little bit more, and it's just because I've got the test bench off to the left hand side. So we've got a conclusion. Now, normally we'd be talking awards and stuff like that, but where we've not done any in-depth, full-on, proper testing, it would be a little bit wrong for me to hand out awards based on performance and stuff. Although there are plenty of reviews around and about there online, and they're all being received, as you would expect, a Corsair power supply to be. So we won't speculate about anything like that. We'll go over the final features and stuff like that, because I'm pretty sure, as with many of you, with stuff like this, there's not many of us that really go in and pick the reviews apart like we used to when it comes to a good, well-known brand. It's only when you start going with some of the, you know, some of the other brands that you then decide to get a little bit more anal when you're trying to save a bit of money, for example. But we've gone from the old style Seasonic based AX850, which is what we compared with today, and then we're into the new Flextronics based AX860i. Now, I have spoken already about like the cables and stuff like that, but just so that you know, the new AXs that are platinum with the red, so the AX860i, AX860 without the I, AX760 without the I, and the AX760 with the I, there will be new individually braided cables coming through soon. But the older models and these models, the cables aren't interchangeable. So the individually braided cables that are out on the market at the moment for these ones, you cannot use on the newer ones. The 24-pin configuration is slightly different on these. I don't know what the effects would be, but I sure as hell wouldn't want to be shoving one in my motherboard to find out. But yes, also the difference is the I stands for digital. So these are a fully digital power supply now, and the digital ones, the I's, are made by Flextronics, but the non-I ones are still made by Seasonic. So yes, I did want to bust that rumour, because people seem to think that all of Corsair power supplies are made by Seasonic, and it's not true. They've actually got 4 OEMs now. But something that you should be kind of keeping in mind is for the really high-end digital stuff, Corsair have now moved on to a different power supply because Corsair couldn't deliver what they wanted. So they've moved to Flextronics for that, the digital support, digital power delivery. And to give you a little bit of background on Flextronics, they do make some really high-end server power supplies, and they're renowned for their longevity. And if you put something in a server, for argument's sake, let's imagine it, you're building yourself a server and you could have thousands of pounds worth of kit. It's not unusual for a server graphics card alone to be worth, you know, megabucks. If it's like kind of like going to be doing loads of computations and stuff. Say it's a web server, so you've got, you know, £1,000 RAID card in there, loads of bits and bobs, and you've got it in your data center, which could be hundreds of miles away from your house. You're not going to be wanting things to break. So those ones, they're built to last. And that's pretty much the avenue that they've taken with this. And Corsair are confident enough to have given you a 7-year warranty with them now. But I have got me little notes, because again, I'm not a robot, but some of the features to kind of pick out, as it is single rail, 71.6 amp. But if you want to use the Corsair Link software, you can then set it up so that you have software driven multi-rail technology, so that with that multi-rail you can set yourself an amperage limit on it, and then it won't exceed it. And if you do try and pull too much amps from that rail, you get the overcurrent protection will kick in. So personally, with like massive overclocks and stuff like that, single rail is generally the way to go. Yeah, it's normally the big single rail stuff is generally the stuff that's better. You start adding more rails in, that's when you can start losing efficiency and stuff like that. So that's probably the reason why they've gone that and gone the kind of software route rather than a hardware multi-rail anyway. Fanless up to 30%, which is roughly 258 watts. I have to admit, with 258 watts there, because I've been monitoring wattage for quite a while, it's quite possible that you can have a gaming rig that will be gaming without the fan kicking in. So unless you're running massive graphics cards or something, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the people with smaller graphics cards and stuff, that's not even going to kick in properly. We've said about it's made by Flex, and then really it's just the fact it's just built to last. Really, it's bomb-proof. I'm going to be running this power supply, this one, in Orca. I have been purposely waiting for these ones to come through because of the little red bits. And anyone that's been following that build log, you'll understand, you know, with the red and Orca, now that comes to go. So from, you know, before the days when I even was reviewing, I would choose, generally be picking Corsair power supplies up. And I have to admit, I've never been let down. I've even had one before where I dropped water in it. And I mean, I had a water cooling leak, a pump failed, hose swelled up. Cut a long story short, an epic amount of water went into the power supply. It all shorted out, and the power supply just shut itself down. Nothing, none of the hardware died. Literally just took the power supply out, put a new one in, bosh, fired up straight away. And it's through experiences like that that I don't mind recommending these. I don't care, you know, whether I work closely with them on other projects or anything like that. The power supplies, it's always something I've been championing. And yeah. So if these are the type of things that you're going to be looking for, obviously they've got Gucci toys there. You can link them up with your H80i or H100i and get that all in with the Corsair link. If you don't mind a lot of cables all around your rig and stuff, you can even get like the special like Link Commander. It's like a central station, so you can put all your fans and everything in there, and you can control your whole rig with that one Corsair bit of software. It may be something that in time I may set a rig up with it all in there, just so that we can show you what can be done and stuff. But for now, it's this. And remember that this review is pretty much going to be able to be carried directly across with the AX760i as well. I've not had any of the Seasonic versions in yet, but we never know whether they might turn up at a later date. So yeah, sadly, I'm gonna play it safe and not give any of the trolls anything to go with or to start on. So I'm not going to give them an award in the corner. I don't know which corner it would have been actually, but anyway, an award in the corner. But the fact that I'm using it should say a lot to you, really. And it's not because I have to, it's not because I'm paid to, I'm doing it because I want to. And it was either going to be this one. This was the one originally that I'd planned to use in there, but as soon as I knew the AXIs were coming, I've kind of held off, and I'm going to chuck that in there. We're going to rock with that. So in like 6 months or something, I'm going to be still sat beside it. See if you're going to ask me questions about it. That's unless, you know, I've gone completely bonkers by then. But anyway, there we have it. Power supply review. We've seen some nudity in there as well. I've compared it with the slightly older version, so that you can have a look at, you know, any differences that any proper power supply nerds would have found inside. To me, it just looked really pretty and tidy, and the new one wasn't dusty. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the review. Don't forget to subscribe and comment and all that kind of stuff. I would like to hear feedback on the way we've gone about it this time. But anyway, for now at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out. Ding!